Hey everyone, so I guess we'll just start this off with a dungeon that is very accessible if you're Horde and a little hard if you are Alliance. Now, of course, if you're leveling an Alliance character, you can just queue up for this. Obviously, I can't show this to you now because it's reflective of my level. But if you have like an Alliance character around level 15 or 20, you'll then get the option to queue up for Ragefire Chasm. But if you are trying to actually enter this, it's a little hard considering that this dungeon is located in the Cleft of Shadow within Orgrimmar. Like, the entrance is below Gramash Hold. So, yeah. However, I will say it's not impossible, as I was positioning this character for this video, I saw two Alliance players exit, and they started fighting the guards here. So, yeah, you can do it. It's possible. You're just risking PvP if you want, and here's the meeting stone. So I guess I should take a moment to refer to meeting stones. I believe these were in Classic or Vanilla. This was a way to help, like, if you had people join your group, you could be able to just simply teleport them to the entrance, as opposed to making them have to run all the way to the entrance. So let's say, hey, I'll help. Okay, you join the group, and you're here in Orgrimmar, and he's all the way in Tirisfal. Or he's who knows where else. Far, far away from Orgrimmar is my point. Yeah. That means he has to run all the way here. So, whoever's idea was to create meeting stones, I think deserves a lot of credit, because I think it's a fantastic idea. And then, of course, if you had warlocks, that just made it even easier, because summoning closet, right? So this is Ragefire Chasm. You'll also perhaps recognize this from my video on the Siege of Orgrimmar, because this is basically where we go farther down to where Garrosh is located. Well, before that happened, this was set up as the Ragefire Chasm dungeon. And based on that, I'm pretty sure this is pretty close to the time that it was back in Classic. I actually never did this one, apparently, because of the questionnaire. And yes, that is something that I should mention, is that a lot of dungeons, one of the things that made them great for helping level characters was that they had extra quests within them. I figured let's go ahead and do those, why don't we?
This was supposed to be a routine sweep. Clean up a few trogs, make sure there's no threat to the city, and then be in the tavern by midday. Instead, I've a group of scouts missing, flamehounds pouring out of the chasm, and Zoraneth is going on about the next Twilight's hammer. Puh. Go in there and get my scouts back so we can figure out what's going on down here.
Abu.
The power of these dark shaman has attracted many allies, former members of the Horde that now work towards some dark purpose. We need to make an example of them before we have another Twilight's hammer in our hands. Kill any cultists that you come across, and bring me their insignia.
Yeah. So, because of the whole, this is mainly accessible within Orgrimmar, it's going to be very likely that I'll be switching back and forth between factions, just to make things easier in terms of, let's travel to here for this dungeon, let's travel here for this dungeon. Like, obviously it's going to be a little hard for me to take this character into Stormwind to do the Stockade dungeon. Oh, also, dungeons are a great way to work on reputation for certain factions, because for those of you who know, tabards allow you to get reputation when you kill enemies within a dungeon. So the idea is that you can go into a dungeon and just keep killing a bunch of ads, and you'll continue to get rep for that faction. We've got him now! And they break free and kills them all.
I didn't think anyone was coming for us.
I guess I should start reading up on the stuff in the journal, right? Ragefire Chasm extends deep below the city of Orgrimmar. Barbaric trogs and devious searing blade cultists once plagued the volcanic caves, but now a threat has emerged. Dark Shaman. Although War Chief Garrosh Hellscream, confirmation that this is Cataclysm, recently called on a number of shaman to use the elements as weapons against the Alliance, the chasm's current inhabitants appear to be renegades. Reports have surfaced that these shadowy figures are amassing a blistering army that could wreak havoc if unleashed upon Orgrimmar. So yeah, Twilight's Hammer wanting to build a force literally beneath the city of Orgrimmar and then unleash them on it. This is Adorog. Ragefire Chasm's Trog populations have rapidly declined in recent months for one reason: Adorog. This ravenous flamehound was among the first of his kind ripped from the Firelands by Dark Shaman. Adorog's handlers feed the unruly beast over twice his weight in Trog flesh per day to keep him appeased. So he's got a couple mechanics. He fixes eyes on a player, charging their location and inflicting damage to all nearby players in impact, and he breathes flames, inflicting fire damage. That's it. Let's see. Boop. Come on. Come on. Try and show off your mechanics. Come on. Before I one-shot you. There you go. There's the flame breath. So you're taking this, taking the flame breath while the others focus DPS and heal you while you're taking a beating here. Waiting for him to do his charge mechanic, because I remember it, because this is always usually one of the very first dungeons that you'll do once you get to 15 if you're wanting to level a character. If you're leveling an allied race, some people just immediately go to the dungeons. Okay, so he's just not doing it. Alright. So you'll get, some, loot that will be helpful for you while you're leveling, unless you have, heirloom stuff. So, a suspicious rock. It's safe to come out now.
I thought I was going to die down here.
I know that wasn't a peon, but I just love doing the peon voice. Who doesn't, right? This is one of the reasons I love doing dungeons indoors as a shaman. Ghost Wolf. One of the best things to have indoors, because of course you can't mount inside dungeons unless they are like outdoors. Most of the times dungeons will be indoors, and you're basically going to be stuck having to just, run like this. Unless you have either a shaman with a ghost wolf, or a druid with a cat form, and so on and so forth. Other classes will be able to have more mobility than others. Let's get this guy out of here. Come on out.
I didn't think anyone was coming.
Alright. So right off the bat, we see the Dark Shaman. This is Dark Shaman Corinthal. Corinthal has always believed that brute force is the only way to control Azeroth's elementals. His extreme views led him to join the ranks of the sinister Twilight's Hammer. When the cult fell, the Orc and other like-minded shamans secretly infiltrated Ragefire Chasm to continue practicing their dark arts. So he hurls a shadow bolt of twisted magic at an enemy, does shadow damage, and he calls down a hail of twisted elements that rain from the sky for 15 seconds, inflicting shadow damage. So, not really that difficult to deal with.
The power of the Dark Shaman will overwhelm you.
There's the twisted elements. Shadow damage, right there.
Interrupt.
Yeah. You can interrupt that. So here's the Shadow Storm that he does. So he casts this for 15 seconds. Those swirling circles. You can just kind of like easily avoid it because look how slow they drop. Yeah. So unless you're like a caster and you're just kind of standing here just casting, you can easily avoid it. I think I would just go ahead and turn auto loot off. This is just kind of stuff that's just taking up space in my bags. Don't really need it. So yeah, you can start to see some of these areas here. This is always interesting when we see what the tank decides to do, partly because whether or not they actually want to do the quest, because sometimes you'll see a worker just kind of hanging over the edge. So this is Slagmaw. Unlike other lava worms enslaved by the Dark Shaman, Slagmaw has proven to be nearly impossible to control. The beast lives to dig through the depths of the earth, and it cares nothing for the consequences of its actions, or the damage that it causes to anyone who stands in its way. So he'll spit lava at you, and he will submerge, and then emerge, at a different location. There's 4 locations here, so that's pretty much all there is to it. Not very complicated bosses. Just go ahead and take care of that. Oh. Some other appearances I haven't. But here's what I'm talking about. You see that? Yeah, there's one of those scouts who's hanging over the edge like, oh no! And sometimes the tank will actually want to engage, and sometimes other people want to engage because they want to do the quest, and just someone will be like, oh, come on! Like, they just want to finish the dungeon instead of actually doing the quest. So,
I owe you an ale.
okay. So now we're coming up on the final boss here. Again, a relatively short dungeon. But that's good. That's fine, because this is one of the very first dungeons that you'll be doing. So I'm okay with a short dungeon like this being one of the first. This is Lava Guard Gordoth. Hubris drove the brilliant shaman Gordoth to act as a living conduit for energies pulled from the Firelands. He and his allies had hoped to mimic the creation of elemental ascendants in the Twilight Hammer cult. Instead, the explosive influx of power drove Gordoth insane and mutated his body into a hideous form. Not too far off from what we will see in Burning Crusade with the Fel Orcs. So he's got a Seismic Slam, he's got a Ground Rupture, rupturing the ground, inflicting damage to a player, knocking them back, and he has Enrage when he reaches 30% health. So you can beat him, get those. You can also find 3 more of the scouts, so if you hadn't gotten the others, you'll be able to get 3 more out of here. Alright, I free you all. And then the 2 quest givers will show up and you can turn in the quests here. And I gotta loot this because I can't click on him because his thing is in the way.
Good work. This will make it very clear how Garrosh is going to deal with failures.
Huh.
That's all that survived? I don't know who these Dark Shaman are working for, but they're going to pay for this.
They're working for the Twilight's Hammer, you idiot.
For the Horde!
And that is it to Ragefire Chasm. Like I said, short dungeon, don't worry. If you're wanting a longer dungeon, we've got some more coming up. Yeah, we've got some more coming up. Oh, gosh. Some are going to be more enjoyable for me to do than others. There are some in here that I do not like doing, just because they feel like long mazes, and I hate dungeons that feel like mazes.